But there's one they fear. In their tongue, he is Dovahkiin, Dragonborn.
The heavy weapons guy is the front man for the red team. Usually partnered with a medic, a transporter malfunction has stranded him in tropical Skyrim. Separated from his trusty minigun Sasha, he will have to rely on his fists, his shotgun, and his sandwich-making skills to survive. Tested on legendary difficulty with Revenge of the Enemies, Organized Bandits in Skyrim, Deadly Dragons, and Dragon Combat Overhaul. In other words, it's freaking difficult. Mod list after the character story. The heavy weapons guy begins the game with a shotgun. And while not his old minigun, Sasha, his one true love, it is still very effective in the land of Tamriel for shooting and killing people dead. From a Skyrim game perspective, the shotgun is actually a high-powered crossbow, but it has the visuals and sound of a shotgun. And while it does come with a certain number of standard bullets, any crossbow bolt can be fired from it. That said, we all know bullets are better, and that's why you can craft them at the forge under steel. And while the shotgun is great for mid and long range attacks, it is not really good for short range. Instead, he takes out his fists. As his light weaponry skill increases, so too will the damage of his fists. And not only does punching enemies hurt them, but it also drains their stamina. In addition, the instant he executes an attack, he is actually immune to an enemy's physical attack because his blow will basically rebuff theirs. While the heavy is unable to heal on his own, he has a stomach unmatched in the land of Tamriel. And eating is how he heals. He will gain an instant benefit from food. That's right, no realistic needs and diseases here. We're going with the straight vanilla approach. With a twist, because he can craft both a regular sandwich and the Talos sandwich for ultimate healing abilities. If you've ever heard the heavy on a killing spree on a payload map, you know that he is a really good shouter. He can not only shout, then switch shouts, and the next shout has its own cooldown. His speechcraft skill goes up just by using those shouts. Finally, being larger than the average adventurer, intimidation comes naturally to him, and it will be twice as effective. By virtue of the classic tried and tested alignment system, the heavy weapons guy is classified as chaotic stupid. That is to say, he is in fact a fucking moron. When people talk about the Imperials, or the Stormcloaks, or Talos, or the Divines, or the College of Winterhold, or Alduin the Soul Eater, all he hears is... So despite the fact he's going to have huge speechcraft skill, he's only really going to use it to intimidate people or shut them up. Preferably intimidating them to shut them up. You're going to want to skip through as many dialogue trees as possible and go in blind, because all the heavy needs to know is where do I need to go and what do I need to kill. As you're skipping through dialogue trees, you're going to want to yell at your game, shut up and get to the point. And then, when the quest indicator information comes up, that's assuming that the NPC finally gave in and shut up. The heavy is too stupid for self-restraint, so while he tries to respect the law, while he tries to be lawful, his stupidity will lead him to do impulsive things that he will regret later. Now the heavy's going to pick up absolutely everything and anything in a dungeon, and he's going to take it back to sell, with the express purpose of then buying food. If someone's selling food, he's going to buy it. If there's skooma, he's going to try it. Where'd the sleeping tree sap go? He already ate it. Because he's already used to having the administrator telling him what to do, when a disembodied voice starts barking orders at him, like a Daedric shrine for instance, he's immediately going to do what they say. So of course, he's going to finish all of the Daedric shrine quests. Of course, because he's so stupid, there's a 99.9% chance he's going to then take the Daedric artifact he got as a reward back to town to sell it to buy food. And when he's finally done buying food, he's going to buy more food. Seriously though, spells, scrolls, staffs, they're all forbidden for this character. Although he can drink potions, he should not be crafting them. He is not an alchemist, he is not an enchanter. The only thing he can do is blacksmith. Now all armors are worn under his clothing, so it doesn't matter what he blacksmiths, what he wears, it's all fine. He should not be using any melee weapons other than his fists, and he shouldn't be using any other ranged weapons other than his shotgun. At the first possible opportunity, the Heavy will buy Breeze home in order to store all his extra food, and then he will go out and buy more food. Now, the Heavy is what you refer to as a team player, and he always has a medic by his side. The medic will heal him in extreme situations, but keep in mind those heals are fairly small, and he'll still want to rely on his sandwiches for high burst damage that he may receive. Red versus Blue. The ongoing conflict had its origins in 1850, when the two brothers Blutarch and Redmond each established rival companies. Blutarch, the smarter of the two, employed Billy the Kid, Stonewall Jackson, Abraham Lincoln, Alfred Nobel, Henry Johnson, Nikola Tesla, Sigmund Freud, Davy Crockett, and Fu Manchu. Yes, these legendary figures of history ended up becoming mercenaries to Blutarch, thus making up the first Blue Team. But Redmond would not be so easily beaten. He got his own team of mercenaries together, and so they fought, and they fought, and they fought. Time passed as mercenaries were locked into an unwinnable war. Nearing a death from old age, Blutarch contacted a scientist in order to have a life-extending machine created, one that would turn him into a monster. The scientist agreed. However, while he was working on this machine, a woman appeared before the scientist. The woman convinced the scientist to have a second version of the machine created, one for Redmond. She paid the scientist with 100 pounds of Australium, a super rare element that allowed Australians to develop teleportation technology and become a world leader. The machines were completed, and close to a century later, they were still using them. They would die, and then a great electrical surge would bring them back to life. But the machine began to fail. Frantic for answers, he hired the grandson of the person who built the machine originally. Team Fortress 2 players would know him as the engineer. Due to their conditions, Blutarch and Redmond were unable to administrate their companies properly, so they brought in an administrator. Little did they know, they both brought in the same administrator. Her name was Helen, and she's assumed to be the descendant of Elizabeth, the one who met the scientists before. She hires both the red and blue teams, and she continues the war where it left off. She's actually the announcer that speaks to you while you play the game. For those of us who were playing the game when it was new, this is the entirety of the story. However, all things must change, and it was the Man vs. Machine update that ushered in those changes. Eventually, both brothers came together to declare a truce. And not a second after declaring peace did their third brother, Gray Man, appeared. The two brothers had no idea there was a third brother. With even greater technology than his brothers, he proves to be neither weak nor feeble as he slits both their throats, ending the red and blue companies. Although the administrator can continue to use the shells of the two companies as a pretense to continue collecting Australium for her personal use, the original purpose of the red and blue companies is now dead, and any life that the companies still have hinges on Manco, its parent company, and its Manconomy. In other words, if people stop buying from Manco, they can't pay the mercenaries anymore. So stop being a free-to-player and pick up a huge-ass pack and gift it all to me. Especially medic items. I don't do regular trades at all, but if you want to gift me items, it's steamcommunity.com/ID/Zaric. Nah, I'm just kidding. My medic is decked out in his vintage gear, along with Bill's hat from Left 4 Dead 2, the Primeval Warrior saying that I started in the beta before TF2 was actually released, and the procedure mask that was gifted to me by one of my viewers. Thank you very much. So back on topic. Now Gray Man unleashes his horde of robots in an attempt to take over everything. The former mercenaries of Red and Blue must now join forces to stop this wave of machines. first mod that you'll need adds a playable heavy weapons guy race to the game. Horrible first-person animation, so don't use first-person mode. And while another mod we will be adding can add a heavy weapons guy disguise for your character, it looks ugly as crap, so I'd rather have the clipping issues with this one. Lets you get away with wearing any armor you want, because the appearance stays static, regardless of what your character is wearing. Only the equipped weapon will appear on the character's back. The next mod adds all the guns you'll be using. This will add a weapon vendor to Riverwood, as well as a pile of weapons on the ground which you'll be using. All these weapons are crossbows and use bolts, although you can craft bullet bolts that do more damage than standard bolts. Either way, both the heavy shotgun and the syringe gun for the medic will be gotten from this mod, as well as the ability to craft the bullets. This adds Team Fortress 2 melee weapons to the game, as well as disguise armors that you can wear on any normal Skyrim character to make them look like a Team Fortress 2 class. It has severe limitations and can mess up first-person mode, and in the Heavy's case, although this screenshot doesn't reflect it, he looks very, very ugly. So we're not going to be wearing the disguise armors ourselves, we're just going to be keeping them around for the medic to wear. Make sure that this mod is overwriting the previous mod. A very simple mod, Spy Crab over Mud Crab, is simply going to overwrite all the mud crabs in the game and turn them into spies doing the crab walk. Although this was not included in the character roleplay section, you should assume that the heavy weapons guy has an intense hatred of blue spy crabs. Pick yourself up Skyrim Unbound so you can use the alternate start to skip the beginning of the main quest. Have dragons already in your game from the start. Start at Riverwood where all the Team Fortress 2 gear is, and just basically set up the character. These two mods add craftable sandwiches to the game your character can eat in order to be healed. Obviously, if you're a lazy SOB who doesn't care about theme, you can just spam health potions or regular food, but there's something in theme about the heavy weapons guy eating sandwiches.
Nom nom nom.
Keep in mind that the version of Sate That Appetite we want is in the optional files, the non-realistic needs and diseases version, either for or without Hearthfire depending on how you have it. Weightless items comes in several modules, and each module does basically what the mod advertises. It makes those types of items weigh nothing. Use the foods module to make sure all the foods the heavy weapons guy is picking up, doesn't count for the crafted ones, but just the regular reagent food weighs nothing, and therefore he can stockpile it like mad. This mod makes it so that when you use a shout, it creates a script that keeps track of that specific shout's cooldown. Then when you switch to a different shout, it automatically refreshes your cooldown so that you can use that new shout. If you switch back to the old shout, it'll recall the script that had that old cooldown so that it can keep the cooldowns consistent. People who want to create a character based around shouting usually set their shout cooldown ridiculously low, but that is a game-breaking way of doing it. This is a more balanced and fun way to achieve the end. Be it an INI file tweak or just this mod, you really, really want proper aiming when you're using third-person perspective, because on the heavy, you're going to be using third-person perspective all the freaking time. This character never felt right to me. The theme was a little bit off, it just didn't work for my sensibilities when I play the game. However, put her in a medic's disguise and don't talk to her after you configure her, and congratulations, you got yourself a healer. Obviously, you tell her not to use single target magic, you remove her melee weapon and give her a syringe gun, and bam! I want to say first and foremost that this is a brilliant mod, and should definitely be tried out. If you like the theme of it, you should use it, because she is an incredible follower. She casts heals and blessings and other things which are really cool, and she'll actually use offensive spells and even AoEs if you ask her to. She's even got her own quest line that you can follow to its natural conclusion. She's fully voice acted in her own thing. She's got her own styles. I mean, it's just, she's a great character, just doesn't fit my theme, and when you put the medic on top of her, her blessings and whatnot just kind of work with the character. Alright, so I had one issue with the mod, and that was getting her to wear the medic's clothes. What ended up happening is her daily outfit had a higher armor value than the medic's clothes. Therefore, she wouldn't wear it even though she was in the mode to accept clothing from trades. What I ended up doing is I restarted before I entered the inn where she was, and I waited some period of time, and when I went in, she was wearing a different set of clothing, and this one had a lower armor value, so when I gave her the medic clothes, she switched to them. I immediately then told her that these clothes were for adventuring, and from then on, if she changes her clothes to something with a higher armor value, I can immediately tell her to switch to her adventuring outfit, and she will. But do play with her menu system because she is a very intelligent follower, and once you've configured her properly, she will play perfectly to how you want her to play. But again, for the medic, just disable her offensive spells, remove all her gear, give her the medic outfit, give her the syringe gun, make sure she knows to switch to whatever you've given her. Keep her supplied with either bullets or rockets. I don't know how bullets or rockets will work for a syringe gun, but they do. As I mentioned before, the heavy weapons guy was transported to Tropical Skyrim. Not regular Skyrim, Tropical Skyrim. Here are two versions of Tropical Skyrim. One is the regular version that is the most lush and beautiful Tropical Skyrim you can ever see. And the second version is the optimized version for people with slower computers so they can still experience it with a good frame rate. Now keep in mind, Tropical Skyrim's rate of compatibility with custom areas is fairly low because Tropical Skyrim edits almost every cell in the game by hand to add all these beautiful new areas. Custom city mods probably won't work. It changes numerous creatures, so it's very possible that a creature overhaul won't function either. But in terms of the heavy weapons guy being in Skyrim, we wanted to put him in a totally different Skyrim, and mission accomplished. As usual, if you want to create this build but you haven't seen my Common Mod Index video yet, go ahead and click on that box up here to watch that first before you proceed to learn the information about these modules. The mods we'll be using this time that are a part of the Common Foundation are Skyrim Redone, that's Skyre. This overhaul will allow us to make the Heavy's fists super powerful, and as he levels up the perk trees on the left side of the light weaponry tree, his punches will get stronger and stronger until he's able to knock down giants with a fearsome punch. Keep in mind, for Skyrim Redone, it comes with several modules. The only module we want on is the main module, and none of the others. We only want it for the perk trees, not any of the standing stone powers or scaled enemies or any of that stuff. Now, I know for our alternate start, I have already listed Skyrim Unbound. I already talked about Skyrim Unbound, but that's because I was kind of doing the workshop section there, so just bear with me. Use Skyrim Unbound, follow the instructions later. Now, as for Sky Tweak, we're only going to tweak a couple things about the character, specifically giving him a bazillion carry weight. We're going to leave everything else alone. After starting a new game, the quest will update. Go ahead and hit Escape, go to Mod Configuration. Under Skyrim Unbound, and keep in mind that this menu may look different for you depending on what version of Skyrim Unbound you have. Set your class to Warrior. For dragons, set Word Walls and Spawns. Skyrim is already under attack by the dragons. For Dragon Souls, click Dragonborn. For the Heavy is a Russian Dragonborn. For spells, make sure nothing is selected. Under Wealth, go ahead and select Amount. Set it to 5,000 septums. For starting location, set the town of Riverwood. You'll begin the game somewhere outside of Riverwood. You should head to the archway here, and you'll see a bunch of guns. Go ahead and pick all of them up. Just to be safe, wait until daytime to make sure you got all the guns. They're hard to see in the dark sometimes. Go ahead and add the shotgun and unarmed to your favorites. Now on the far side of the mill, you're going to see two Team Fortress 2 characters, an engineer and a sniper. If you ever need to get more Team Fortress 2 gear, you can get them from these two, gun merchant and regular merchants respectively. Talk to the regular merchant. Buy a red medic's outfit. This will use up almost all of your gold. Next, go to the sell dialog and sell your rocket launcher, scattergun, SMG, sniper rifle, and your blue syringe gun, as well as the Frontier Justice and any other weapons you started with that are not the shotgun and the syringe gun. It's important. Hold on to all the rockets you picked up. This is going to be absurd. You'll notice another pile of ammo here. Go ahead and pick it all up. That's right next to the merchants. Head on into the Sleeping Giant Inn. A woman will be in the inn. She'll be dressed differently every time. Go ahead and talk to her. Go through your dialogue tree with her, and when you've reached a point where you have multiple choices, go ahead and allow her to join you. Have her follow you, then ask to speak with her. Talk to her about what she wears. Choose option number 2, where you'll give her things to wear. Next, trade some items with her. Go ahead and take all of her items. Then give her the red medic outfit. She will now look like a medic. Also give her the syringe gun and all of the rockets you have on your character. She will shoot rockets out of her syringe gun. This is totally in theme and balanced. Feel free to give her potions back now if you want. Next, talk to her again. Ask to speak to her. Talk about healing and curing. Under combat healing, select either a 50 or a 70% threshold depending on what you're more comfortable with. The higher your difficulty level, the more you're going to want this because of the less of a hit you're going to be able to take. So in my case with legendary difficulty, with several difficulty mods enabled, I choose 70%. Before you do too much, make sure to talk to her. Tell her about what she wears. Tell her that what she's wearing now is for adventuring. And whenever she changes outfits, because she does that periodically, it's part of her AI, you can simply go back to what you wear, and you can tell her to wear her adventuring outfit at any time. Make sure to tell her do not cast single target destruction spells, as that is not in theme with her character. Next, hit the tilde key to open up the command console. If you're using a non-American keyboard, it might be a different key. Now type player, period, add perk, space, 105F29. This will add the intimidation perk, making your heavy twice as good at intimidating people, which, just look at him, I mean, seriously. Next, type help guard breaker, one word in quotes. You're going to see several codes, but what you want are the first 2 characters of that code. In my case, it's 0F, but on this list, you're going to see XX. You're going to replace XX with whatever the help code said for you in your game those first 2 letters are. Type in the following 4 add perk commands. Once you've finished, you will have those perks added to your character and your character will be set up. Once this is done, you're going to notice some very particular perks. In particular, the ability to do stamina damage with your fists, and the ability to not take damage while dealing an attack, while dual-wielding fists. In addition, you'll have the first of 5 perks in focus. This perk will make crossbows ignore 60% of armor. Any perks or information that say crossbows, just mentally replace it with shotgun. You're ready to begin Skyrim as the heavy weapons guy, and you have your medic with you. I'll be streaming the Heavy Weapons Guy today on twitchtv.com/Zhakaron. Expect about a good 4 to 5 hours of Heavy Weapons Guy in tropical Skyrim fun. Are you watching this from the future? Sometime that isn't April 1st, 2015? Well, holy crap. Watch the replay on my Zhakaron Live playlist. I'll get it up there eventually. Expect to see me again sometime this weekend, and we'll get down to the Bone Lord of Worms serious character build testing. I know voting for the next set of builds is not up yet, but when it does come up, it will be at reddit.com/r/Zhakaron. Until then, I appreciate all your feedback, and this was fun to make, although certainly not what I usually do.
You're a strapping young man. Don't be a stranger. I just want to find a good husband, a family of my own.